welcome back to the channel, everybody. Just me today. Today we are going to be doing who I think is each Premier League team's best player this season. Go into not too much depth, but have a little bit of discussion of why I think so. And as always, your opinions are very welcome down in the comments below. So for starting off with Arsenal, I've gone with Bukayo Saka. 5 goals this season, 10 assists. You know, we know his quality on the ball. He's a great dribbler. He's fast, he's direct, he can cut on the inside, and he's dangerous, right? And I do think he does carry that Arsenal attack. The first few weeks of his injury, you could really tell the impact. And obviously they've gone on to win some games by a decent margin, you know, the Man City 5-1. But before that, they looked a bit flat. And I do think that directness from Saka was very missed. But yeah, for me, Arsenal, their player of the season so far is Bukayo Saka. Right, on to Aston Villa next. I've gone with Morgan Rogers. You know, he gets talked up a lot in the media. And although statistically Watkins is better, for me, Rogers is better visually. I mean, he looks strong, he's direct, he's clinical. And I do think personally he makes Tuchel's England squad. You know, there's talks of him making it. You know, he's touted as one of like, you know, really good young talent coming out of England. And I agree. But for me, Watkins has just fallen off a little bit off his high performances last season, and Morgan Rogers has just exploded at Villa. So that for me is why Rogers is ahead of him. Let's go on to Brentford next. I've got, again, this was really difficult. Gone with Yohan Wissa being Brentford's player of the season. Really tough choice between him and Mbeumo. Obviously, you know, Mbeumo's, I think, 4th or 5th top goal scorer in the league. You know, brilliant on either foot, great finisher, clinical, quick. The reason I've put Wissa ahead of him is because 1, I like him more as a player, and 2, he become Brentford's all-time Premier League top goal scorer. And for me, that is a big achievement. I know Brentford haven't been in the Premier League long, but to do that over Mbeumo, who has been a quality finisher for a few years, says a lot. And obviously he was the record of a club record bid for Nottingham Forest. Obviously he didn't go there, but again, it says a lot. On to Brighton. I don't know if it's because it's a bit recent. You know, I've seen him come back from injury, but I've gone with João Pedro. He's got 5 goals and 5 assists this season. I think he's the highest average match rating at Brighton with a 7.2. And maybe it's a bit harsh on the other players, but for me, when I've watched them, João Pedro is the one player that I see on the ball and I'm like, yeah, he's going to do something here. So for me, Brighton's player of the season so far is João Pedro. On to Bournemouth next. No, I've gone with Justin Kluivert. You could put the majority of Bournemouth in this pick. They have been amazing this season, overperforming by all categories, all margins. But for me, Kluivert's just been that little bit above. You know, he's got 2 hat-tricks this season. I know people don't really credit his first one, which was a hat-trick of penalties, but you still got to put him away. And he was recently voted Premier League Player of the Month. You know, over the likes of Salah, over the likes of Palmer, over the likes of Haaland. You know, it says a lot about his quality. He just develops with the team as well, I've seen. You know, he's fast, sharp, clinical, and he contributes. You know, he's got 11 goals and 5 assists this season, and I do think he's Bournemouth's highest average match rating. I think they'll do well to keep hold of him in the summer. He has been amazing. You know, can play at striker, the 10, on the wing. So, you know, he offers a lot of versatility for Bournemouth, and he really adapts and, you know, plays well to their counter-attacking system. So yeah, for Bournemouth, their player of the season so far is Justin Kluivert. Right, Chelsea next. I mean, it's an easy choice. It's Cole Palmer. You know, most goals at the club with 14 and most assists with 6. Most goals at the club with 14 and most assists with 6. You know, he's the 2nd highest performing player in the Premier League across the season according to SofaScore, with an average rating of about 7.8, and only Salah's better than him. So really says a lot. So yeah, Chelsea, Cole Palmer. I don't really see any other player that gets in over him. Right, on to Crystal Palace next. I've gone with Jean-Philippe Mateta. I know recent games he's been clinical. He's in the top 10 goal scoring forwards in the league this season while playing for Crystal Palace. So that's, you know, a big achievement. And he's what Palace thought Edouard was going to be. You know, he's fast, strong in all areas, quality finisher. He's a good Premier League forward, and he's been a star player for Palace this season. They had a little dip, and he was part of that dip, but recently he's just gone up exponentially, and he just looks quality, to be fair. And yeah, I don't see anyone else getting in. Yeah, for Crystal Palace, Jean-Philippe Mateta. Right, on to Everton. A bit tough because they've all been a bit dog shit, to be honest. But I've gone Jordan Pickford. He's one of the highest performers at the club, despite how shoddy Everton have been, especially at the back. And ever since Moyes took over, he just looks more solid than normal. And then, like me and Connor have said also, I think he needs to go to a bigger club. I think it's a crime he's at Everton. I do think he's a top keeper. Now, if he does move, where does he go? Does he go to Chelsea? Does he go to maybe Newcastle? Newcastle, I think, would be a good move, but I know the Sunderland link's there. But only time will tell, and that's, you know, another video in itself. But yeah, Everton, for me, their player of the season has been Jordan Pickford. On to Fulham. A very, very tough choice, you know. I had the likes of Iwobi in here, obviously Smith Rowe, Jimenez. But I've gone with a man who I've touted for a move to Liverpool. It's Anthony Robinson. He's been brilliant this season. He's got the second most assists in the Prem, joint with Saka on 10. And only Salah betters him. So I think we know he's going to be Liverpool's player of the season. But he's strong, he's fast, he's good at going forward, and he's strong at the back, which not a lot of modern fullbacks are now. They're very good attackers, but they can't defend. But Robinson, for me, is brilliant at left back, going backwards, and he's probably going to be the left back in a team of the season if we do a team of the season come the end of the season. Fulham, for me, their player of the season so far is Anthony Robinson. Right, on to Ipswich now. I think there's only one man you can really pick here. It's Liam Delap. I mean, arguably it's his breakthrough season with Ipswich, and he is a key player for them, let's be real. He's strong, fast, actually a really high level finisher. And, you know, he's had limited service compared to what he would get at other teams maybe, but to get 9 goals from that is still good. And, you know, Ipswich are going down swinging, like Connor said. They're going to go down with a fight. And it'll be sad to see them go down if they do, because they've been really good. But they're just not lying down and accepting defeat. And I think if they do go down, you know, I don't think Delap stays. You know, I think he's a top 10 striker. He could easily fit in a team in the top 10, in my opinion. I think he's that good. Leicester. This was a very, very tough choice because Leicester have been shambolic this season. But just going based off what I've seen, I'm going with Mads Hermansen, their goalkeeper. Now, Leicester fans, if you disagree, it's more than fair because you know your club better than me. But whenever I've seen Leicester, he just looks phenomenal. There's some games he's keeping you in them. I think it was against, was it Liverpool or Arsenal? He was unlucky to lose. And again, that was because of Hermansen. He was making some outrageous saves. And yeah, he's got a shoddy defence in front of him, let's be real. And Leicester didn't strengthen that area. And that is probably why they are going to go down. That's what me and Connor have predicted. And it's going to come true. I don't see how Leicester can improve from where they are right now. On to Liverpool. I'm getting ahead of myself there. Just one player. I keep mentioning him, Mohamed Salah. Probably the player of the season, let's be real, not just for Liverpool, but it's an easy choice. He's got the most goal contributions in the Premier League with 34, 21 goals, 13 assists. He doesn't look like he's declining. He's got his pace, his dribbling, his finishing, and he looks like more of a team player, judging by his 13 assists, In other seasons, he was, a little bit criticised for his selfishness, but he is performing really well. He's been touted with a Ballon d'Or shout as well. And you know what? Based off this season, I'm not mad with it. I agree. There's nothing else I can really say. Mohamed Salah's been the player of the season. And if it's anyone else, then you're wrong, basically. From Liverpool to Manchester now, Man City. This was actually a tough one because they've all been underperforming. Me and Connor spoke about it many times in videos before. But I know it's easy to say because he's their striker, but I've gone with Erling Haaland. Despite a poor season from the whole club, Haaland has still scored 19 goals this season, meaning he's the second best forward in the league, stats saying-wise. And he's still dangerous, he's still fast, he's still strong, he can still jump like a salmon. He's just absolutely crazy. It's just an off-season. But if 19 goals is considered a poor season, I think that says the levels of Erling Haaland compared to other strikers. I didn't even realise he scored that many goals, so I was researching this, like stats and facts. But yeah, to only be about 2 or 3 goals behind Salah, who's having best season of his career, arguably, and this to be called a poor season, I think says a lot about Erling Haaland and the level he's at the minute. On to their neighbours now, Man United. It's between two men. It's between Bruno Fernandes and Amad Diallo. You know, two players who are actually trying to win games for Man United. And I've gone with Amad. I know it's probably a bit recency bias. That's fair enough if you think that. But it just seems like he's the only player trying. Like I said, apart from Fernandes, he's got really good electric pace. His pressing is probably the best in the league, I'd say, pressing. You know, he's so fast, so energetic. Even towards like the dying moments of the game, he's still running, just getting in players' faces. You don't see a lot of that from a Man United player anymore. You know, he's showing the hunger that Man U fans want from their team, but they're not getting. For me, it is Diallo. So if you disagree with that, that's fine. But I think it's hard to argue with Diallo being player of the season for Man United. On to Newcastle. Again, a few players you could pick, but I think one man does stand above them. I've gone with Alexander Isak, you know, one of the most clinical finishers in Europe this season, let alone the league. Technique is out of this world. You know, he's been linked with the likes of Arsenal, top other teams, you know, 6'4", 17 goals this season, and he just looks quality. I know he's had his injuries a little bit, but he's just been world class, and he is world class. And I think Newcastle have got a really good striker on their hands here. Probably the best since Alan Shearer. I know that's probably a bit maybe controversial to say, but you know, he gets Shearer's stamp of approval, so maybe he is the best striker they've had since Shearer. But yeah, I don't think that's a controversial shout, you know. Alexander Isak being the player of the season so far for Newcastle. Anyone else, you know, Anthony Gordon's in with a shout. Maybe Joe Linton, maybe Gamares. But yeah, anyone else who you think, put down in the comments below. But for me, it's Isak without a shadow of a doubt. Right, on to a surprise package this season, Nottingham Forest. It's one man, it's Chris Wood. You know, I did say he was the most underrated player in the Premier League, and this season's proving that. You know, he's got 17 goals in the league this season, and you know, this is a man who has been criticised, you know, because of his height and how he's performed in previous seasons, but he's showing his quality this season. You know, he can score with either foot, header, he's even good with penalties, and I don't see him getting dislodged from the number 9 spot. Maybe they bring in a striker to compete with him next season as they've got Champions League football, or they're going to get Champions League football. But yeah, Chris Wood, what else can I say? He's been brilliant this season. The player of the season for Nottingham Forest is Chris Wood. On to Southampton, again, like Leicester. It's an hard choice. And Southampton fans, I'm sorry, and I know the media darling is Tyler Diblin, but I've gone with Kyle Walker-Peters. Again, like Leicester, I haven't watched a lot of Southampton. I'm not going to lie to you lot. But whenever I've watched them, this is just going off the eye test here, Kyle Walker-Peters just looks really good in attack. Especially the Tottenham game, when I know they lost 5-0, but he was just constantly running into the box, creating dangerous chances. And if Southampton could actually take their chances, they probably could have got something a bit more out of that game. But yeah, I do rate Kyle Walker-Peters. Right, on to Tottenham, another team performing poorly this season. But I've gone with Dejan Kulusevski. Now, if you've watched this channel for a little while, I did put him in an overrated team. But the man's proved me wrong. And you know what? I'm happy to be wrong. Whenever I watch Tottenham, he's the one who only seems to be attacking. Especially against Liverpool in the Carabao. He was the only one going forward. There was no one up there with him. He was just trying to take on the whole Liverpool defence by himself, really. And he's actually really strong, but not strong enough to take on the whole Liverpool defence. Yeah, he's got 6 goals and 4 assists this season. And if Tottenham were a bit more clinical, he'd probably have more than that, to be honest. And he just seems, like I said, he seems to be the only player that seems to be trying during a bad period at the club, a very, very bad period. Yeah, for me, Tottenham's player of the season is Dejan Kulusevski. Right, on to West Ham, my club. But I have gone with Jarrod Bowen. I know it's probably an easy pick, but he's the best performer at the club. You know, he's the only real consistent performer. Obviously, whenever I see West Ham play, which is a lot, he seems to be the only one that wants to do something. He's the only one who wants to, you know, pick up the ball and get up pitch. And yeah, I mean, when he was out with that foot injury, you could tell. Like, we just didn't seem to have the same zip, didn't seem to have the same passion to go forward. But when he came back against Chelsea, I know we lost the game, but his impact was pretty much instant. He scored, he got a goal. And yeah, I'd say he is our key player currently. And, you know, he's got 6 goals and 4 assists this season, which is the best at the club. He's also the highest performer at the club. He gets an average rating of about 7.3, 7.2. Right, last but not least, the Wolverhampton Wanderers. It's only one player, I think. It's Matheus Cunha. Head and shoulders above his teammates. Ridiculous technique. And I'm not going to lie, he'll probably be off in the summer. Wolves, you know, managed to keep Nottingham Forest and Arsenal off of him. And I don't think they're going to be that lucky in the summer, to be honest with you. Probably lose him for a little bit less as well. I think it was about 60 million that they rejected. They'll probably get a bit less for that because Matheus Cunha himself may want to leave. And I wouldn't blame him. He's also in the top 3 performing players this season, which is insane. You know, he's only bettered by Palmer and Salah. So that really says the sort of level he's performing at. And I don't like saying this about players, but I think he's better than Wolves, to be honest. I do think he'll get a move to a top 10 club or even a top 5 or 4 club. And you know what? I wouldn't be annoyed with it. He's a quality player. Just needs to work on his attitude a little bit. But apart from that, he's a quality player. You know, 11 goals this season, 4 assists. And if Wolves survive, which I think they will, they're going to have Cunha to thank. And then that's how he can sort of end his period at Wolves. But yeah, my player of the season for Wolves is Matheus Cunha. So with that, that is the end of the video, guys. Obviously, as always, your opinions are very welcome down below in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on all our socials. They will be links, I think, up here or there. And don't forget to always like, share and subscribe. And we'll catch you next one, guys. See you later.